Safe to say, all of that £1 billion spending seems to be finally paying off.
Pretty amazing the way they worked all together, and it was completely the opposite of what we've seen like maybe 6 months ago or at the beginning of the season, where they seem to know each other so well. They seem to know exactly where to put the ball. They play simple, they're very accurate, efficient, and they're fast. Every time they get the ball back.
6 months ago, this Chelsea team was almost unrecognizable. They just barely managed to qualify for European football. And now, they're fighting for a Champions League spot. So how has it all changed then? It's thanks to this man.
Everyone happy? Enzo, first of all, a very warm welcome to Chelsea. How does it feel to be sat here today?
Thank you. Yeah, very happy, excited. Will be a fantastic journey, and yeah, exciting to start as soon as possible.
Tell us about your first week at the club. How important has it been to get your surroundings and the people at Cobham at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, it's been quite busy. It's normal at the beginning. It's always in the same way. You try to know all the people around the training ground, some of the players that they were already there. But yeah, the feeling is fantastic.
You mentioned the players. It is a squad full of talent and personality. How excited are you to work with them on a day-to-day basis?
Very excited. One of the reasons I'm here is because I'm convinced that the squad is very good. As you said, it's full of talent. So the most important thing now.
Except he's been very unconventional with his game plan. Before we get into that, quick heads up. If you haven't subscribed to Kicks with Seb yet, hit that button so you never miss out on content like this. Maresca's team is crazy. He's got players who had their careers on the balance in the team, a striker who couldn't seem to score goals, and yet has somehow transformed this Chelsea team from running cardio last season to a Champions League competing team. They may have regressed in recent weeks.
Well, the lob's on. Where's Sanchez? Haaland will score!
Some questionable goalkeeping from Robert Sanchez making the headlines, but on the bigger picture, Chelsea has looked much improved for large parts of the season so far.
This is how different this season has been for Chelsea this year. Look at how it was at this same...
After 15 Premier League matches this season, the Blues were second. I mean, that's a major upgrade. We'll get into how the team has been performing later on, but to understand this new Chelsea team and the game plan, we've got to understand the manager. Enzo Maresca, the latest in an impressive line of Italian managers to become the new Chelsea owner. But if we're stating facts, at the time of his appointment, the mood was very different.
About this appointment that makes any kind of sense to me. And don't get me wrong, what Maresca did with Leicester, simply outstanding. That's his first full season in charge of a club. Leicester in the Championship is a very different prospect from any Premier League club, let alone one with the expectation of Chelsea and the dysfunction.
In a nutshell, this was it. Enzo Maresca was walking into what looked to be a ticking time bomb. He'd become Chelsea's sixth manager in under 2 years, and given the fact that he'd had only one full season at Leicester, where he guided the Foxes back to promotion in the Premier League, the critics were out for him, but it's safe to say he's handled it well.
Listening to the Chelsea chants after that emphatic win against Southampton, and they were chanting, "We've got our Chelsea back." Is that what you've seen from Chelsea so far this season under Maresca?
I would say that 100%. I think he's been outstanding as a manager. I think he really has. I thought his biggest problem would be with the squad he had, and it's a big squad, and then there's not much between all the players. Do you know what I mean? It's not. Sometimes you get a big squad, and you'll get 11 or 12 players that are much, much better than the rest.
Outstanding so far. To be able to steady the ship, have Chelsea playing a style of football that is recognizable now, and get results too, all in such a short span, that's incredible. Notice that the earlier clip talked about how Maresca has been able to get the maximum out of a group of players who aren't that different. See guys, the biggest issue with the appointment was if Enzo Maresca would be able to handle this new Chelsea team, full of young players, and plenty of them too. But going into the tactics now, as soon as he got to work, he made the point clear.
Again, I'm not working with 42 players. That is something that from outside, I'm working in this moment with 21 players. Today's session is with 20 players. Yesterday's session was with 21. So it's
Despite the massive squad size, Maresca had identified the players he was working with, and not just identifying them, the ones who didn't fit into his project, he made it clear to them that they've got no future at the club.
I spoke with Raheem 1v1 the day before City, and I explained him exactly the situation. I don't see Raheem after the game. He's training apart, as I said, but in case I will sit with Raheem, I will tell him exactly the same things that I already told him. I don't have anything new to tell him.
The likes of Raheem Sterling and Kepa, these guys all left the club because Enzo Maresca pointed it out to them that they didn't fit the idea of how he wanted this team to play. Brutal, but it was working too. Under managers like Graham Potter and Mauricio Pochettino, the team went through formations that in the end didn't give the Blues any identity. They suffered some damaging defeats too. A 5-0 defeat to Arsenal, a 4-1 to Newcastle, lost 4-2 to the Wolves. The point is, the team seemed to be building something, but it didn't work out. Enzo Maresca has come in and reshaped them into playing proper football.
Second in the Prem right now. You don't see any team in any big league that is top or near the top of the table with a terrible defense. You just don't. And for me, that is the most important thing that Maresca's done as far as being able to make them competitive.
The foundation of any good team starts with the defense, and in that aspect, they might not be where they want to be yet, but under Maresca, it has improved. Robert Sanchez's error against Manchester City weeks back might seem to undermine this, but in the bigger picture, it's been a much improved defensive performance. As of the time of recording this, the Blues are 8th on the league table for the most goals conceded this season, with 30. It gets even more impressive when you realize at the top that Liverpool has conceded the least amount of goals this season, with 21, a 9-goal difference. So what does this say about Maresca's team then? They're not as bad as they were back a season or two ago, and this has set the tone for how he wants the team to play. In terms of his formation setup, Maresca plays a 4-2-3-1 shape that allows the team to be dynamic and use neat interplays. We talked about the personnel he let leave earlier, and with the ones he's got, he has a clear idea of how he wants them to play.
I speak with him a lot, but even if you know them very well, you always struggle, because they can do so many things after 9 years together that you never know which one they are going to do.
Maresca is a Pep student, not necessarily copying him to a tactical fault, but you can see similarities and a building philosophy in how he plays, and one of them is how he sets up his fullbacks.
We try to bring the fullback inside is defensively, because in the moment that we lose the ball, we have 5 players defending the transition.
The fullbacks for Chelsea this season have been mainly Malo Gusto at the right back and Marc Cucurella at the left back. One of the ideas of fullbacks inverting, as he says, is to help with the transitions and help the team defend better. But he's got even more reasons why he wants his fullbacks inverting.
Bring the fullback inside when we have the ball, because the idea is to have an overload in the middle, extra player in the middle, and always try to have
he wants his team to have an extra player in the middle, wants his team to be able to knit passes together and have an extra man in the middle. See guys, the reason we're focusing on the idea of fullbacks is that we said earlier, Enzo Maresca learned a lot from Pep and decided to take in the successful part of Pep's strategy, which involves the use of fullbacks inverting to create options. But it goes beyond just fullbacks inverting, and I'll tell you what it is soon. But in case you missed it earlier, you can still subscribe to Kicks with Seb if you haven't yet already by hitting the button below. Maresca knows the first step is to have the defense in check, and after that, being a former midfielder himself during his pro days, it became for him a question of finding the balance in the midfield.
Why don't you think Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo are able to influence Chelsea's game, considering that they were brought in as one of the marquee signings in the last 2 years? They don't influence, they don't gravitate as much as you would like.
Cole Palmer is the one that stands out.
Yeah.
Given the money the club spent on acquiring these two, it became interesting to see if they'd be able to work it out. They didn't under Mauricio Pochettino either. Now, the problem here is, despite the obvious lack of chemistry between the two, it's almost as if because of the price tag, Mauricio Pochettino was forced to play them. Enzo Maresca, on the other hand, found a solution.
First of all, it's a matter of balance. I think in this moment, Romeo and Moy, they give us also physicality, strength in the middle. And this is the reason why we found the option Malo in the pocket. Otherwise, when we play with Enzo, it has to be Enzo and one between Moy and Romeo. And when Enzo move, probably we struggle a little bit in the middle in terms of physicality. That is something that in this moment, Moy and Romeo, they give us.
He knew the partnership wasn't working, made the change and brought in Romeo Lavia to partner with Caicedo in the midfield. And immediately it worked. Chelsea had a balance. This isn't to say Maresca had negated Enzo Fernandez from the starting lineup. Far from it.
International break, you know better than me. It's always a tricky game, you never know. And I was quite worried today because of that. But I think we compete, we play well for some moment, and at the end we won the game.
Enzo Fernandez, how pleased were you with his performance? Obviously, he was one of the players that went away, quite a long way on international duty. How pleased were you with him?
Yeah, very happy. I said the problem is that probably from outside, when player they don't play.
He made it clear how good Enzo is when he did give the Argentine minutes. From a tactical standpoint, Enzo Maresca had brought a balance to the midfield. Part of the reason Chelsea hasn't been as fluent of late is because of the injury to Romeo Lavia that has disrupted the process. But you could see, when he was fit, how much of a handful those two were in the midfield.
The other team was better than us during that game. That's not to say that for the long term they are better than us, but during the game they had more ball possession than us. They were threatening us more than any other team.
This is Arne Slot, Liverpool's manager, praising the Chelsea setup after the game versus Liverpool. They may have lost, but it was narrowly. Chelsea dominated the match and went toe-to-toe with Liverpool, particularly in the midfield. The system of having two physical powerhouses in the midfield means they can dominate teams in the middle of the park and feed the man who in such a short spell has shown the spark to be called Chelsea's most creative option. Cole Palmer, a man Enzo Maresca is all too familiar with. He knew him at Manchester City when Enzo was still an assistant to Pep, but this time, in this tactical setup, Cole Palmer had become the key to everything positive about Chelsea.
He's such a big name now in English football. How do you think he's handling that pressure of being on social media and doing interviews and doing loads of media himself?
It's another one that I'm not surprised because I know Cole very good.
Yeah.
The best thing is that it didn't change in the way it was 4 or 5 years ago. It's exactly in the same way. He loves football.
Yeah.
He wants to play every game. He wants to use the ball in the session every single moment.
According to Maresca, he always wants the ball and never hides from it. And having a player as expressive as Palmer will always be key to any side. It's actually up top where we've seen big changes to this Chelsea team, particularly because ever since Maresca's arrival, he's transformed a bunch of misfits into performing players.
Again, it's the Nico Jackson story here. He worked hard. He ran the channels, he tried his best. It's not picking on the player for lack of any effort. He's just not a natural, confident finisher. And when you...
Nicolas Jackson came under a lot of criticism in his first year at Chelsea, and straight away, all summer, there was talk about Chelsea going to the market and getting a new central attacking option. It didn't happen. The club stuck with Nicolas Jackson, and now Enzo Maresca has shown us a side to Jackson's game.
To contrast his performances this season with last, I'm not sure where to start. When, as we saw today, when Chelsea are on the counter-attack, he proved such an asset in terms of his pace, in terms of his running, in terms of his chasing lost causes. As we saw with the opening goal today, when Chelsea are in comfortable possession, he holds the ball up so well. I did not think I could put either of those.
You judge a striker for goals, yes, but Enzo Maresca looks at the productivity of it, what he does for the team, chasing down, pressing, and making selfless runs. Nicolas Jackson plays in a system now that not only guarantees him chances, but also allows him to become a better version of the player we saw a year earlier. New features unlocked. It's not just him now. This guy has equally shown signs of a talented player in the works. Cole Palmer has the obvious effect on that Chelsea attack, but if we took him out of the picture, you could easily make a case for Nonu Madueke in there too. Madueke's relationship with Maresca this season can be best described as tough love, but you can't argue when the results are this good. He's got 12 goal contributions this season, including that hat-trick against Wolves. That's more than he managed last season, and we're still in February.
No, yeah, for sure, the competition has to be higher, but not only Noni Madueke was out, also Renato Vega was not on the squad, so, and the reason is exactly the same for both of them. There is not any different reason, it's just a technical decision.
Yet, you can see Maresca is always trying to push him, to get the best out of him, even if it means dropping him out of the squad on occasion. Chelsea are in Europe too, but not exactly the competition they wanted to be in, the Conference League. But to this end, Maresca has come up with a brilliant plan as a win-win. Players like Jadon Sancho and João Felix, we've seen in action both in the Premier League and the Conference. Also, both players who kind of fell off a bit, Sancho at United, Felix after Atletico Madrid and Barcelona, and both players needed resurrecting their careers.
Cole Palmer, Joao Felix is the reason why people pay tickets, is to see that, to watch that kind of a player. And Cole Palmer is, he can see things like Joao that the rest they cannot see. Doesn't mean that the rest they are no good, but they are different from the rest.
You listen to Maresca talk about Felix now. It's clear he has a plan for him. The man wants to play football, and making him part of the team and giving him minutes in both competitions is only helping to improve the competitiveness of the club. It's the same with Jadon Sancho too.
The reason why Jadon came here is because we think that Jadon is going to help us. Unfortunately, he had some small problems, so he was out for a while. Now he's back. The only thing he has to do is to continue in the same way. He cannot drop, otherwise he's not going to play.
Maresca has zero doubts about his qualities and knows if he can get him to play at the level he wants him to, he will perform. This Chelsea team under Enzo Maresca is a mixture of tough love and grit. They want to play. They've got a coach that's helping them learn the game and have tactics that's bringing out the best in the team. What do you guys think about Chelsea though? Are they that good? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to Kicks with Seb.